Okay, welcome back to Scouching's video room. Today we are looking at a very special player in Washington Capitals' recent first-round selection. In the top 10, Mr. Ryan Leonard of Boston College. He is coming off of a wonderful MVP performance at the World Junior Hockey Championships this year in Ottawa, and he's having a great season with Boston College. He took home a gold medal at the World Juniors as well, and we're going to take a look at one of his most recent games where he's playing Merrimack College. So, what we're doing with this show is just taking a pretty casual, cross-sectional look at what a player brings to the game and maybe where there might be some areas of improvement, not taking too much from it, but just taking a general look at the positives and the areas of improvement and seeing where things could go from here for the player. I'm really excited to get into this one. I've seen Ryan Leonard play a bunch of times over the years, and he's always an entertaining player to watch, so let's see what we can get into today. So super quick right off the top, what I like about this play, Ryan Leonard's over here on the other side of the ice. He was tracking the puck coming the other way on the other side of the ice. He comes over, puts himself in good position to receive this breakout pass down here by the boards, and he recognizes that there isn't going to be much of an option for him to sort of curl around and get the puck up the ice, and you'll see a gap open up here. So now he has this situation here. You know, you've got a Merrimack guy here, Merrimack guy there, Merrimack guy there, just not much to really play with. So he makes what I think is the smart option here. If I were coaching, this is what I would want to see. You hit this guy here, and then you have a lot more space to play with because this guy is kind of coming back this way. You got this guy heading this way. All the momentum is not going towards this area of the ice. So it's a really smart, simple play from Leonard. Obviously not handled the best by his defenseman there, but in general, that's the kind of thing that I like to see, the little things that matter in order to keep the puck moving up the ice. So this here is going to be something you'll see a lot from Ryan Leonard. So he is this guy here. This is just a power forwards move here. So he'll get the puck on the entry, and then he's just going to cut right inside on this guy right here. This to me is what a power forward is really all about. It's not necessarily about your strength as much as it is how you utilize it, as well as how you combine it with sort of skill and lateral agility. And his ability to just cross that defenseman up like that to get to the middle of the ice like that is a really, really key skill. It's a simple move. It wasn't the fanciest thing, but getting yourself to scoring areas is pivotally important and is one of the most common limitations I see in young players over the years that I've done this. And Leonard is a player who is constantly always looking for that opportunity to get into the middle of the ice. On the other side of the equation, this is a situation where Leonard kind of balks at the opportunity to go to the net here, but I also just wanted to highlight this entry pass from James Haggins. That's just a pinpoint pass. Leonard here, you have a bit of a lane to work with here. You've got a guy streaking down here. If I had my way with things, this is just kind of a no-go zone, especially within a second or two of gaining the offensive zone. You're just kind of running the risk of wasting a potentially good offensive opportunity. In this situation, Boston College keeps the puck in the offensive zone, especially for a player that I've seen be able to sort of drop a shoulder, drive wide, get down low, and get to the net. That's kind of got to be the default mode. So we'll see if that's the case for the rest of the game here. And there's another one from the perimeter from Leonard. This is just really, really smart offense on the breakout here. You'll see Gabe Perreault thread a pass to Ryan Leonard here to get the offensive zone entry. And I mean, this must be something they do in practice a bunch of times, but Leonard is immediately under a lot of pressure. Just a quick little drop pass here to get the puck back to Gabe Perreault, and Perreault's in perfect position here to have a lot of space to at least play with or maybe try to slip a puck through here. You know, Leonard's a strong kid, go to the net, maybe you can get a tipping opportunity, you're cutting across the crease and putting one in there. But I'll back it up because I think it also just reflects, because we just did a video on Gabe Perreault, just his ability to spot open space and find a way to get in there and make something happen. And I mean, there he brings the puck back into the neutral zone, but you kind of get my point of the generality of what I'm trying to say. Here's another really beautiful play from James Haggins. I know he's not the subject of this video, but a nice little cut back there and a slip pass to get into the slot. Really, really good stuff. And then, of course, Ryan Leonard was in here, but he's now cutting across the crease here. You know, he's just going to the net. Yes, he's a great shooter, of course, but his ability to sort of calmly step into that space in front of the net there is also a thing that can very easily lead to a goal. And then there's another just catch and release pass that I thought was really interesting as well. Down low, puck along the goal line, and this is a dangerous scenario, right? So he'll just flip around, put the puck in front, and Haggins could have had a scoring chance there. So that's a slot pass attempt. You know, obviously didn't work out, but Leonard is chipping in really well, at least in the offensive sense of the game. So this doesn't quite go Ryan Leonard's way here, but a lot of what I do is about sort of figuring out the right idea, where the player's head is at, and things they're trying to do that you can go to the video room and reinforce as a positive. And based on the sort of things we were seeing before with the low percentage shot attempts, this is a really good example of just what he's kind of gonna need to do a lot more of in the NHL, which is just fight off that defensive pressure and get pucks in deep, right? He draws a penalty doing that as well, right? So just pure hard work, and he pulls himself and a guy to the ice and draws a penalty. So that kind of thing is also going to be very, very important, and it's the importance of being strong and powerful on your feet and being willing to keep your feet moving that means you could draw penalties. So it looks like he also took an embellishment call or something on that, because he also is in the penalty box here, and this is 2 minutes later in the second period. So he gets out of the penalty box though, and he's got an entire lane here to play with. And I mean, sometimes when guys come out of the penalty box, you can get advantages like this. Doesn't even touch the puck. He just kind of slaps it right back into the middle of the ice. They get their offensive entry. He kind of gains a step-ish on this guy here. He has a free stick, and there's a medium danger scoring chance for him. Simple little things like that, but with his quick shot release, those kinds of things can go in. Just really smart positioning here from Leonard. He's not on the screen right now. He's kind of off to this side. You've got a chasm of space here. I don't really know exactly what happened here with Merrimack, but this puck is basically free to be slapped through pressure into this empty space, and Ryan Leonard is circling around there somewhere. So there's an opportunity here to be had for Boston College. In this specific instance, it doesn't quite develop. But again, here's Leonard, right? This is an area where he can score from. If you have a really, really good shot on a one-timer here from behind the net, you can score from here. It happens all the time. And so he's in wide open space, and he tracks. So as the play went this way along the goal line, he's tracking play going this way as well to make himself a pass option the whole way. And even when he sort of hits the limit of where he probably should be going here, if you draw sort of a line from the middle of the face-off circle there, he stops up, gives a quick pivot, and he's constantly square to the puck. And there you go. So he gets his chance a little late, not as good of a chance as it could have been, but he spots space. Nobody's really challenging him. And then he's pivoting to be in more of a better shooting position here with his feet pointed towards the net. So little subtle sort of scoring forward type things. Obviously doesn't get the best scoring chance out of it, but there were opportunities there that something much more dangerous could have happened, and that's how you end up scoring 15 goals in 20 something games this season. And this is the other side of being a power forward. I backed it up just a little bit. So that's Leonard just punching a guy off the puck and then entering the zone, and then again using that skill to cross up this defender here to create some room for himself. He loses the control of the puck here, but still manages to get a stick on the puck and get it down low below the goal line, which is half the battle anyway. And we're seeing sort of signs of the kind of role that Leonard can provide to an NHL team here. So there he is, just throwing a guy to the ice, gaining possession of the puck, crossing up a defender, getting it down low, and then he makes really no hesitation here, just sort of floating his way into scoring areas here. Merrimack opening up the floodgates here for an opportunity here, and nothing, Perreault doesn't find him there. But again, off the puck in the offensive zone, Leonard is doing a lot of the things that a guy like him will need to do to score goals. And there's a... I mean... Like, you can just see this guy playing in the NHL and doing something, right? Like, a coach is going to find something for him to do that will be productive, right? Especially if he's willing to lay out a big body like this and go toe-to-toe down low and battle for pucks and help his team gain possession. And there he goes again. I mean, the guy is a dog. The guy just is a bit of a jerk, which I personally love, and they get scored on, which is unfortunate, but I don't think you can really put the blame at Ryan Leonard's feet on that. I think on that shift, there was a lot of things he was doing that was moving things in the right direction. Just a really impressive shift in general. But yeah, getting scored on sucks. So this is beautiful stuff. So you'll notice Ryan Leonard is here, and he's just gonna gun it as soon as they gain possession of the puck in their own end, and he's in the offensive zone, gains great body positioning, gets his stick on the puck. And underrated thing about a situation like this is being able to keep the puck away from the guy that you just gained body positioning on, using your reach really effectively, and then just throws it out in front of the net. Obviously doesn't get an opportunity out of it, but these kinds of quick strike situations, he's got options, right? Hagens is no joke. He's going to the net. So you have someone else also in support going to the front of the net as well. So if all things were perfect, he would have had eyes on the back of his head and seen where those guys were particularly streaking into. But he puts the puck in front, could have generated a scoring chance, and that was literally 100% on him. I mean, the guy who dumped it in, sure, but he got on his horse, did what he needed to do. And again, that's a thing that coaches are going to want him to do in the NHL. That's just how it works. Here he goes again, right? This is another opportunity where he's just out skating the guys on the other team. But he gets on his horse into the neutral zone, gains a ton of space. Perreault has the right idea here. There's a gap, so exploit it. He's got an open lane to the net. You know, this could have been a very, very dangerous scoring chance for Leonard, and unfortunately, it, again, didn't materialize. But these are the types of things that I love to see. It's just these things in this sport, they happen and happen and happen, and eventually you get rewarded for it. It's why I kind of value the little things a lot more. It's why I value sort of the overall things that a player is doing and what's happening when they're on the ice rather than the production they get rewarded for. This game has been a really good example of a lot of the things where I go, there's a lot of things he's doing right in a lot of areas of the game that are really important, but he hasn't been rewarded on the score sheet yet. So, you know, what does that mean? I think it's perfectly fine. I just wanted to highlight this as well because I think it's a really good indication of the sort of two-way impact that Ryan Leonard can have. Again, really, really subtle thing, but Boston College defenseman steps up here, and Leonard is taking a path here to support his teammate here as well. If this puck gets dumped in, there's not really going to need to be a tremendous amount of commitment from this defenseman because you'll have Leonard supporting that defenseman as well. So again, just a good support situation there, a quick cutoff and a quick pass to the defensive partner, and now they have the puck going the other way. So they avoid having to go too deep in their own end and retrieve the puck and try to break out the puck. Then it's a quick turnaround, really good sort of support play there from Leonard, and just again, smart positioning, good timing, selfless, stuff you love to see. So again, Leonard, it's a bit of a complicated situation here. Like receiving a pass cleanly like this is not easy, arguably impossible. So they lose control of the puck, but then he just right away knocks a guy off the puck. And again, doesn't go his way, but you see the idea forming there. And like with a couple of more years of training and a little bit more strength on his frame, you could see how a situation like this could go a little bit better against NHL competition, right? So even just this body positioning, right? He's got one hand on the stick, but he's fending off this guy with the other arm, a little shovel pass here under that duress, and they have an offensive zone entry thanks to his hit in open ice there and just ability to gain body positioning. He holds onto the puck or tries to a little too long and it's coming the other way, but I don't really care so much about the fact that it didn't go his way. I'm more interested in the process behind it and like what he's trying to do, and I think that that's a really high-end sort of power forward instinct, that he's not the fastest guy in the world. We've seen that in this game. He's not the quickest guy in the world, but under pressure, he seems to do pretty well. And there are signs that he could do even better with time and experience and more strength. It's funny that after all of the scoring chances that this team has had during this game, and they've gone unrewarded with Leonard on the ice, this is very close to a goal and it just kind of bounces off of his knee or something and could have deflected into the net. But again, it goes to the net and they get their chances. Another one, just it doesn't go in. This is a thing I've thought about Ryan Leonard for a while now, and it's not a negative, but half of the thing that I do is really trying to figure out what job an NHL player will have and like what is the potential limitations of the player's talent profile that might hold them back from being a truly elite sort of top line, you'd never want to trade him type player. And with Leonard, I think there's a lot of things that he brings to the table that are very, very beneficial, right? A lot of things that you're going to really want to see out of him in the NHL. But I think that over the course of this game, I have noticed that the foot speed, when he doesn't really have the time to sort of wheel up and really get his feet moving, it's a little bit below what you need to be that sort of dominant power forward here. And I think that that's kind of a bit of a reason why he's had a few more of these perimeter chances, hasn't really been able to find a lane on the rush to get to the net, and relied a little bit more on off-puck positioning and quickly distributing the puck to others and finding space and creating scoring chances and being more of a grinder along the boards type player. So again, I'm not being super critical here. It's just an observation. So he's already at the center line, right? So he's receiving this pass here. So he doesn't really have the time right now, or hasn't had the space to really get a good head of steam going. And he just doesn't have quite the footwork or the foot speed to power through the defenseman here. It's not an easy situation. I'm not saying that, this is super critical. There is something here to be exploited, and crossing up the defenseman trying to go this way, he ends up with a low percentage chance. Working on that foot speed a little bit more, like it's all about, to me, unlocking more out of a player's game and hopefully seeing more of what makes that player special, right? With Leonard, it's that strength, that that power, create loose pucks, and even just then, the energy level of him just going to the net there and taking that fall, it's a good thing to see. So I want to see the best parts of a player more and more and more. And so it's not that I'm being like critical and thinking he's not going to make it in the NHL, but it's just a matter of finding something that makes him a little bit more of a threat more often in the style of play that he's kind of naturally plays. And I know I'm just sort of letting the game tape roll here, but part of it is a bit of a reason why when I see guys who score a lot of goals and relatively don't have that many assists, I'm simultaneously a person who says don't really worry too much about production, but that is something that I go, well, it's interesting to think about why that is in a constructive way, right? Like, what is it that's limiting the player from distributing the puck to their teammates as well as they do score it themselves, right? Especially because there are generally the opportunity to get twice as many assists as goals. You should have more opportunities to generate those assists. So if you're not, it's worth exploring. And so for me with Leonard, I mean, we've seen moments of really smart playmaking. There's another one. Again, just super smart procedural stuff under pressure. You know, he could have kicked it back to this guy. He could have, but he made a good decision kicking it back to this guy. And I love seeing guys kicking the puck into bigger open ice like this, because you now have the option to hit a pass there if there was someone there, or, you know, try to exploit this, or if this guy's curling back, you can hit them going this way. There's just a lot more options when you go into the more middle of the ice and give your defenseman a lot more space to sort of see the ice and make a pass. But we're seeing a lot of good procedural playmaking from Leonard, and so the question then is like, why is he not sort of generating those shot assists for teammates in the offensive zone? I mean, there's almost one there. So it's not like it's impossible. It's not like he's just not passing the puck in the offensive zone, but I believe that was the first one in the entire game, and we're almost at the end. So it's going to be a matter of how much of his game revolves around what he's capable of doing individually and how much you can sort of develop him with his footwork and his ability to generate speed in close quarter situations that will, you know, get him to be that true elite NHL power winger, which, you know, I think he's going to play in the NHL. I think there's going to be a role for him in some way. Just the energy he plays the game with is undeniable. It's going to be very interesting to see how his career goes for me, because I think there's a lot of upside. I think there's a lot of potential. It just hasn't fully, I just don't think it has been fully developed yet. You see an NHL player there's another scoring chance, right? So we'll back that up. Leonard, open ice. Kids, you don't have to be the fastest guy in the world. This is a power forward. You don't have to be the most aggressive guy in the world to be a good scoring forward with a bit of power to your game. He's just floating around. Other guys are doing the hard work, and he's got all this to play with, and nobody is really challenging him in close quarters. Gets the puck, bam, catch and release, right? Doesn't score, not the end of the world, but super, super, super important, you know? Awareness of space, taking advantage of defensemen that aren't covering you is just as good as being the fastest guy on the ice once the puck's in the offensive zone, in my opinion. Another thing that you're absolutely going to need him to do in the NHL, and again, thinking about this like you're a coach, is so you've got this loose puck battle here, right? He's just going to go straight in full bore and just go to war trying to get this puck. You know, maybe it's a little risky. You know, he gets hit a little bit from behind there, hits the deck pretty hard. And maybe this is a sign of some hard miles coming for Ryan Leonard in the future. But that's the kind of thing that as a power winger, you're going to be expected to do. And that's kind of what has made him such an interesting prospect and what made him such a high-end player in terms of the NHL draft, because he has this combination of skill and power and willingness to go to battle. And I think that's what a lot of NHL coaches really, really want to see more of. We're at the end of the game. All in all, I thought he played extremely well in this game. As a person who watches a lot of these players and has done this for years, a thing that I think is super, super, super important is to develop an understanding of like proper expectations. And what I mean by that is like identify what you think a player can be in the NHL with a reasonable level of going, okay, you know, let's just say I plop them in the NHL and they play a similar way to they do now, and I just have to work with what I've got with them. And I think that with Ryan Leonard, it's very easy to see an NHL player of some kind here, right? I think he's a guy that if he's in my third line, second line, you know, I could see him being a very good complementary guy, a very important member of the line, even if he isn't the biggest line driver in the world, right? Like we saw a few times supporting your defenseman, you know, those quick little moves to get the puck, identify a pass option, get it to someone else, find some open space off the puck, and drive play into the offensive zone. In the offensive zone, he is a dog on a bone. He is all over the puck as much as he possibly can. He was freeing up loose pucks and creating loose puck battles and getting to the net. And when other guys were doing those things, he was finding ways to create space and find space in the offensive zone and make himself a scoring threat. So there's a lot of multifaceted parts of the game that I think Leonard brings in a really good way to the game. To me, I mean, he went around where I had him ranked in the draft. You know, I felt like he was a pretty projectable, strong, power forward type guy with some good skill and some really impressive individual moments. And I feel like there will be some limitations to his game. I think we saw a few examples of maybe the foot speed and the ability to generate speed under close situations being a bit of an issue, but it almost kind of doesn't matter at the end of the day, especially if that strength can get there. You know, we saw him trying to fend off pressure, trying to battle through pressure here and there. Sometimes he was successful, sometimes he wasn't, and I think you can only have a reasonable set of expectations that he's not going to win every battle. So at the end of the day, like, I think there's a ton of runway left with Leonard too. I think he's very young, and there's a lot of work you could still do to develop him and get him stronger and everything. Do I think he's going to be like an elite, super high-end NHL power forward? But I'm not sure. I think he could be a guy who scores quite a few goals. I think he's got that shooting ability. He can find space in the offensive zone. He can get to the net. If guys are trying to counter him when he's in the offensive zone and finding that open space, I think he has the strength or the potential to have the strength to fend off those NHL caliber defending players. But as a part of a functional unit in the National Hockey League, you know, being that powerful winger with a bit of skill and that finishing ability, especially in the offensive zone, you know, being a shooter primarily, but also some flashes of some good playmaking. There's a lot to like with Ryan Leonard. I mean, he's a player who, at least in this game, I think it's a great example of another situation that I always bring up all the time, which is sometimes when you don't get a point in a game, it doesn't mean you had a bad game. And sometimes when you got 3 points in a game, it doesn't mean you had a great game. To me, this was a really good game from Ryan Leonard. I think he created for himself a few really good scoring chances. He created at least one really good scoring chance for his line mates. So to me, he came away from this game pointless, but if I'm tracking this game or if I'm really just watching this game from a bird's eye view, I'm not down on it at all. I don't think he had that many poor moments. So this is a big reason why when I look at players and everything, I kind of don't think about production so much, because there's a lot of context and a lot of situations that could be ignored in a pointless game that is definitely important to note as well. And there's a lot of production that could come from things that aren't super projectable. So in this game, I mean, Ryan Leonard had a few really good scoring chances, but the one that probably came closest to going in was a deflection, right, off of his knee. So it was something that could have happened to anybody, regardless of where you're drafted in the draft. But over long periods of time, based on what I've seen with Ryan Leonard in this game, I think there's a lot of potential. I think there's a lot of upside. So for the sake of the power ranking in this series, I think we're going to slot Leonard in at number 3. As of right now, we've got Yakimchuk at 12, then Beckett Seneca, Berkeley Catton, Gabe Perreault, and Axel Sandin Pelika, Frank Nazar, Nikita Artemonov, Easton Cowan, Sam Dickinson, and we're going to slot Ryan Leonard in at number 3 with Zeev Buyam and Zane Parekh at number 2 and 1. I thought this was a really good game from Leonard. Yeah, he came away with no production, but I don't really care. He showed a lot of what makes him special. He showed some of the things that I think might be limitations in the NHL, but they're not things that I think just are impossible to overcome. I would argue that there's very little that is impossible to overcome long term if you put your mind to it. So for him, I mean, I thought to be constructive, you know, there's a lot to really be positive about. And I think there's a good supplementary and complementary NHL role here for him one day. You know, it might take a little bit of time to really hit his stride in the NHL, I think, but he should be a capable player relatively quickly, and I think that counts for something. So a really good game from him, and I was really happy. It's about what I expected from Leonard, maybe a little bit better than I expected, but a really good game nonetheless, and I think Capitals fans have a right to be very, very interested in what he could bring to the table in the next couple of seasons. So that's it. If you liked it, definitely like the video. You can comment. I'd love to hear what you think about what you saw as well. If you really liked the video, definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you can go to scouching.ca and give us a subscription. If you really want to support the work we do directly, there's an access to a Discord server in there. There is also plenty of new data tools and visualization tables that we've just put out that you can check out at our various tiers based on what you can afford. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one. And if you're not familiar, we do live shows Monday nights at 8 p.m., Thursday afternoons at 2 p.m., both Eastern Standard Time. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching, and have a great remainder of your day or week or month.